So after you've read the case and you've understood the economics and you've spent time thinking about it, and then you went to the standards and you've put all the pieces together and you've reached a conclusion, we've got to actually communicate that conclusion. And the most common way we do that is through written correspondence. And so sometimes we might do that in an email where we do a brief draft, but we need to be trained in the more formal process. And Catherine's actually went ahead and drafted a memo for us to take a look at on how we would respond to customized software. Catherine, you want to take us through what you did?
Yes. Okay, let me share my screen. There we go. Yes, so this is just kind of a quick memo that I drafted, and I started off with like what the question was, which we know from the case. So I was asking like, is this a performance obligation, and do we recognize revenue? And then I referenced the answer because that's what I want to communicate like first and foremost through my memo. So at the top, I have just a quick kind of conclusion paragraph, but it's at the beginning because it's setting the scene for the rest of the memo, because this is the information that they wanted to know. So I'm giving it to them right off of the bat. I say that there's like no evidence to support a performance obligation, and because the bank does not receive control, there's no revenue recognized as of December 31st, because that was also a date that they were asking about. So I put that in this paragraph here. It's really short. It's pretty concise, as concise as I can be because I struggle with that. But I put that up here, and then I referenced this accounting standard right here. So I made sure to provide evidence for why I was getting my conclusion and like how I got there. So this is the accounting standard right here. I just copied and pasted it in to, give proof that this is where I was getting it from. And then it also made it really easy to reference back to it when I explained it. I kind of wasn't sure how to best kind of describe each of these, since there are 3 different criteria that had to be met. And I wanted to expand upon that and give reasoning for that. So I decided just to do 3 quick short paragraphs down here, each in reference to why the situation did not meet the criteria listed above. So that was just kind of super short. There wasn't a lot to expand upon here. It was pretty relatively simple, in my opinion, and there wasn't a lot of technical stuff going on because it just did not meet the criteria. So I just had 3 kind of short sentences, and then I wasn't really sure how to end it because I kind of already gave the conclusion. So then I just kind of summarized the 3 criteria, and then that is how I left it. And I'm also realizing I did not like address it properly to the recipient, but this is kind of the body of the memo that I drafted.
Yeah, I mean, and a little bit of that is the ambiguity of the case on who it's to. So if this were me and I was drafting this in a real world setting, I might just go the lovely person to the file. I write memos and then it'll be subject. I'll do like the 3-line header with a date, and I'll put the date I'm drafting the memo. I'll also put addressee or to, and then I would put to the file.
Okay.
The reason is that it's going to clearly signal, I'm not writing this to a particular person. I want it for the records. Now, if you had put this to Jason McGregor, because I asked you to write this, that would also be right. And you should also sign it. You should probably remember this one from your audit class. All work needs to be documented with who did it. Just because it means it, let's say right now it's pretty obvious Catherine wrote it. None of us are confused who wrote this memo. But if I looked at this memo in 6 months or 2 years or 20 years, I might not remember it was Catherine who drafted it. What I want to actually do is a little exercise. And it's going to be, everyone's going to help with this. So Catherine wrote a memo that's 331 words. I want it to be 250 words. What can we cut? And I'm going to throw the first volley out there. So we see the criteria. Do you see everything that's in parentheses on the criteria? See paragraph 606. Let's just take that out. because it's not relevant. And so let's do that for, see how many we can get rid of. So that got us to 317. Anyone else scan and see?
When you're doing the, in regard to the first criterion and then the second criterion and the third criterion, could you just put them in the list and italicize them and then cut out a bunch of the words about it? Because then it cuts out some of like the descriptor words and you kind of just have to put like a super brief explanation under it of why it doesn't meet it.
Yeah, do you mean like under here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to do that or not, if it would make it like too confusing as to which was the accounting standard or not. But yes, that would be helpful, I think, too. So just take that part.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well.
It's okay. The live editing is the worst. And so you have everyone's sympathy on what this is. What about if you took the word in that, see that last sentence there? I don't, I'm pointing at my screen as if that's helping you see what I'm pointing at. I apologize for being that dorky. It says, therefore, this is not satisfied. What about if you just delete that sentence?
Okay.
And then go, where did the...
Oh my gosh, what happened? There we go.
Now go to the start of the bullet point where it says the bank is not simultaneously. Put not satisfied, colon. Let's do, is it colon or semicolon? You're going to call me my English out.
I have no idea.
We'll go with whatever. And that's a little confession. I'm not going to call you out on that level of precision with grammar. The bank is not simultaneously receiving the software services. Well, there's a period of time that exists from the implementation.
I could honestly just probably remove that.
Yeah, like does that add? And so, anyone else see something that we can cut?
Okay, let me.
Maybe
Yeah.
In the introduction paragraph, in the last sentence where you say, since the bank does not receive control of the services by December 31st, 20x1, there will be no revenue recognized as of that date. Instead of referencing the date again, maybe you would just say, since the bank does not receive control of the services, there will be no revenue recognized as of, and then put the date instead of like kind of repeating the idea of a date.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I mean, I like the way you have it. Either one works.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's finish up these bullet points. That was my fault. I was rushing Catherine. We're making her. So I would do that again, not satisfied.
Okay.
And then what I don't like is they is ambiguous. So
it's the bank, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Period. Because it's clear we're talking about the assets. We don't have to.
Yes.
This is an incredibly hard thing to learn to be an effective editor. And it's only, usually it's someone else, because we all want to put these words. What about if we actually took out that last sentence? Right there, just delete it.
There we go.
Now we need to add some words back. What about using headers to help? So if we went to the top, right under, see that ASC 606?
Mm-hmm.
And we called analysis. So put right beneath that, put summary. Actually, put a bold word summary.
Here?
Yeah, and bold that.
Okay.
And then go to the underneath there and then call analysis. Like you see how now it kind of labels what's what. So now we need to show that we've considered the alternatives. That's a really big thing in accounting, is that you've considered the alternatives. So what I might go is where it says analysis, it says upon closer examination. We haven't examined it at all at this stage, so it can't be a closer examination. Because this is literally the first, provides,
Yes.
Upon examination, there are two possible treatments. It is either a performance obligation or not.
Okay.
If it satisfies one of three criteria, it is classified as the software. And I know we were below the 250, and I just put us above, but we'll get back to that. Then the software service would be classified.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There we go.
What I would also do is, so see analysis, hit enter a couple times.
Sorry, we're here.
No, up, see where it's bold analysis?
Yep.
Let's go down. We want to add one more mini paragraph. And we might not do this one right now, but if we can, that would be, we want to, in 2 or 3 sentences, describe the economic problem. The bank is attempting to determine how to classify whether a service contract constitutes a performance obligation under ASC 606. Even just that one sentence, it lets the reader know why we're doing it. The bank is attempting to determine how to classify this. So now we've kind of defined our problem, because without a problem definition, so what I'm almost trying to do, I'm not necessarily explicitly doing it, how to but I would put under ASC 606-10 there at the end of that sentence.
Okay.
So if we look at that remember the figure from the textbook, it went through the 6 steps. First one was where we defined the problem. Second one, we consider the alternatives. Do you see how what I'm doing is I'm embedding that I've done every step properly. I'm providing evidence of this in the memo, because if it's not in the memo, now I've already got the conclusion. Now we need to get back under the 250. Anyone with thoughts?
What is your opinion on conjunctions? I know that she has in the first paragraph do not, and I believe she has are not met. So how do you feel about don't and aren't? Is that something you should stay away from? I'm not really sure, but I know that would take out word count.
I would rather just keep it formal, and contractions or conjunctions are a little less formal. No one, I mean, but you're right. I mean, if all we were playing was the word game, I'm just doing this as more of a learning how to be succinct, not to cheat to get under the limit. It's kind of like if I say put it on one page and then all of a sudden I start seeing margins go in weird directions and font sizes shrink. It's like, no, my point was I wanted it to be succinct, not to prove that you can set the margins at 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so let's see the very first sentence. ASC 606-25 provides evidence to support the conclusion. Does the standard provide evidence? The standard isn't evidence. So could we just say, according to ASC 606,
Yeah.
The software services do not constitute a performance obligation? Now, again, we probably would want to put some more words in long term if we're drafting a memo. So according to 606-10, the software services provided by custom software, because now we've kind of detailed Um,
Was it custom software or custom?
I thought it was customized. Provided by to the bank. Do not constitute a what's the next sentence give us? With regards to ASC 600, the criteria for the are not met.
I'm trying to talk about the revenue would not be recognized.
Yeah, so maybe we could just say this. Hence, the revenue, no revenue would be recognized before December 31st.
Well, that's kind of what the next sentence is saying. So
that's what I'm saying is, there we go. But where does since the bank does not receive control? Does not. So delete that, and then just put hence or therefore.
Okay.
So we've stated we were asked two questions: is it a performance obligation, and is revenue recognized? And we've provided that summary at the beginning. Now, our analysis, we need to add a sentence back about the revenue recognition because we haven't mentioned that at all in our analysis. So we probably would put one sentence at the bottom now that goes at no below the ASC 606. That three-prong analysis. As this is not a performance obligation, revenue recognition could not be, and we'd probably look for an exact paragraph if we could find it, but I'm not worried about this because it would just be a parentheses, put the site at the end.
Should I put the date again? Or just end it there?
No, you have to put the date.
Okay.
Because revenue will be recognized eventually.
Right. Okay.
And
also, another quick question. Would you ever like try to summarize or I don't know, like try to make the like actual standard shorter or like pull specific parts, or is it best just to keep the full text of the standard?
This is my memo. I would, if I was going to do that, and I would do it, I would not say ASC reads as follow. Where that kind of kickstart sentence out in the middle. I would actually say ASC 607-27 provides three criteria, one of which must be, or according to ASC 606-27, if any one of the following three criteria are met, and then delete that paragraph and anything controls.
Okay.
Like summarize those somehow, and then I would go so then the first one, the customer simultaneously receives and consumes the benefits provided by the entity's performance. I don't know how you could shorten that. That one's really succinct.
Yeah.
But the next one, the entity's performance creates or enhances, but I would take out, for example, work in process. I would probably take out the work that the customer controls as an asset.
Okay.
And so you could play a little. This is a pretty precise standard, but there are some. Now, if this were A to J criteria, I would be more aggressive in how I summarize. So I might be more customer simultaneously receives and consumes benefits and maybe just that. The customer simultaneously receives and performs benefits provided. And that might be it. So we've done a lot of work here. And so how do we interpret something like this? Do we say Catherine's first memo was flawed? Yes, because every memo is flawed. There is never going to be, if the standard you're looking to achieve is to draft the perfect memo, It's just not possible because style and taste come in. What I mean, think about it this way. What does it mean to have a perfectly seasoned steak? Well, if you're a kind of person who likes it very bland, then you're not going to want any seasoning. If you're a person who really likes flavoring added, then you're gonna have different expectations. So now there are some things that are non-negotiable that we all agree. A perfectly seasoned steak, I was gonna say has to be cooked a little, but there are some people who like their steaks blue, and I don't understand that at all. But it has to be from a cow. It's not a steak if it's not from a cow. And so if you don't have a conclusion, if you didn't have analysis, if you didn't provide specific standard references, then it's not an accounting memo. But I really like as we work together, and this is something, if it were me doing a memo in this class, what I would actually do is I would get my draft done for anyone, especially the final memo. And then I would do this. I would ask someone else who's already done their memo, hey, can we go over this together? Can we just talk it through to see what we missed? But you did a great job, Catherine, for a very first memo. And this is the very first memo people are writing. I put everyone in this group on the spot to do first drafts so that we can learn together. Because showing you a final draft wouldn't be fair and doesn't help you learn as you watch this video, because we all learn through that process. Well, Catherine, how do you feel right now? Do you think this is still communicates your ideas?
Yes, I think, yeah, the ideas are still communicated clearly. I think it's a lot more concise, and it's a little bit more organized.
So we didn't change a single idea, and we did not take a failing memo and move it to perfect. What we did was we took a very good memo and moved it slightly better. And that's what editing does. And if Catherine were doing this again, in the real world, if I was sending this to my supervisor, I would edit this, I would review it, I would send it to someone else if it's going to a client or something more formal. But then I would probably sit on it for an hour. And then I would take a read. In particular, I would read this out loud. Because at least for me too, when I read something out loud, I catch more errors than if I just read in my head, because I tend to skip the errors. But this is a really good memo. So great job, Catherine. We're going to see different ways to do this as we go, but great job.